What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick Ash Podcast. We are here today to discuss contracts and a lot of them. There seems to be a lot of contracts coming up between WWE and AEW, more specifically WWE, it seems like now. And obviously big notable one, which we have all heard about by now. And if you follow her on social media, Becky Lynch, you've seen she recently did a post not too long ago. So that's not too surprising and not anything earth groundbreaking or breaking news or earth shattering, anything like that. But just kind of taking a look at everything in totality, there's a couple new ones that I just recently found out today that aren't too big of a deal, but it could still be very interesting going forward and to see if one of them which I would maybe put a little bit of money on and testing the waters at least for a year or two. Either on the independent scene going from WWE that is to possibly AEW or the independent scene or just take some time off. But I don't necessarily see the time off part. But we'll get to that in a second here. I do want to discuss the interview or yeah, I believe it was an interview. I'm not going through the whole thing because it was extremely long, the transcription of it. And I don't have too much time here, but I wanted to at least get a little bit of content out there and just talk about all these contracts. But that is involving, of course, everyone's favorite Tony Khan, our guy here, the owner of AEW, and a comment that he made regarding Ricky Starks. And that kind of plays into a little bit of contract talk there as well. And then there's another one that's a pretty big deal to me. One of my lifetime favorite wrestlers. So personally, a little bit of bias there. I wanted to touch on that before we move over to the WWE side. But as always, thank you guys so much for checking out the podcast here, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening on Apple or Spotify, whatever you're doing. I appreciate it as always. And of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at Kickash Podcast _ or me personally at ASHMANNS. But like I said, with getting all that out of the way and getting right to the point, I do want to discuss the AEW side because that's going to be a little bit briefer than the WWE side. And starting off again with the Tony Khan comment regarding a personal favorite of mine as well, to Ricky Starks rather. No surprise, and even if you aren't like a big fan of Ricky Starks, I think it's pretty obvious the dude is a big deal, right? He's a future star. If he's a star right now, right? But he's one of those guys where you can see he just needs the proper spotlight and the proper setting and the proper positioning, and he can just take that ball and run with it, right? Some people have said, oh, his size may hurt him, or if he were to jump to WWE or anything like that. But I don't necessarily agree with that, especially now with the landscape changing over there. I don't see him running into that problem really, and I think what he may lack, quote unquote, in size, which again I'm not really in the ball camp of or believe that. I think he definitely makes up for in that there and more so rather than in charisma, right? And I think the dude, like you just look at him and he has that it factor, right? That thing that people talk about where you can't really put your finger on it, but like I said, this guy, if he was given the proper opportunity, this guy could flourish, right? So again, maybe I'm just too big of a fan of his, and maybe there's a little bit of biasy there. But I think, like I said, everyone can at least agree that he's got talent and he's got something there, right? At the bare minimum. So the fact that he hasn't been on TV with AEW and he's kind of start stop is it's always been disappointing to me. He has had more TV time than some other people. So I will say that, and has held championships. So there is that, and had some significant feuds, right? Like he did go back and forth with Jericho there for a while. I thought they were gonna do something longer with him and Big Bill, but it doesn't seem to be that way since Big Bill is now with Jericho, ironically, in the learning tree. So we'll see what stems with that. But in regards to the comments that Tony Khan made about good old Ricky Starks. He said, I think Ricky Starks is tremendous. I'd love to get him involved and back in AEW anytime. He's been a huge part of what we've done here for about 4 out of the 5 years and tons of respect. So you would, I 100% agree. First of all, just getting the obvious out of the way. Again, 100% agree, right? He is great or tremendous rather. But you're the booker, you know what I mean? So it's like you're the owner of the company, you're the guy. So if you think he's tremendous and you'd love to get him involved and back in AEW, and the back in AEW is kind of interesting to me. But why? Why is he not involved? Now again, and to be fair, on both sides, Tony Khan may have and could have presented something to Ricky Starks, and Ricky could have turned it down, and not in the sense that we've heard in the past, right? But maybe just not a good fit creatively or something that he was in line with doing or something to that effect. And again, just spitballing here, right? Just kind of trying to play devil's advocate for all sides. Um, maybe that was a situation, right? And Ricky Starks is like, no, I don't want to do that, or I'm not feeling that, or I want to go a different direction, or I think my character is this, or whatever it could have been, right? There's 1,000 possibilities. Maybe that's one of them. It's just interesting though because recently we heard Ricky Starks pretty much saying the same thing that he doesn't know why he's not on Dynamite. He would love to be on TV. He's completely healthy. He got his pulse check, right? Is what he said. So the fact that there seems to be maybe a miscommunication or just a missing link there. I think that's unfortunate, right? If nothing else, I don't know how much time Ricky Starks has on his contract. I didn't see it written obvious anywhere here. I think I had heard of it recently, so I'm gonna see if I can pull it up really quick. But I think it was possibly sometime soon. Speaking of contracts and everything, like I said, it kind of played right into it. And of course, Tony kind of mentioned he's definitely still under contract, which no surprise there. That's not really the question. Excuse me, guys. I had to get a quick swig of the drink there. Yeah, they had reported that, or there was rumors that his contract had expired, but Fightful, and shout out to them, back in March, I believe. Yes, that he was still under contract despite rumors that his deal had expired. And this was back at the AEW Revolution Media Scrum that Tony Khan was asked about the rumor. He said, I don't know what the rumor is. Ricky is part of AEW. Ricky is definitely still under contract in AEW. I haven't seen that. Ricky was a big part of Sting's run. He was Sting's first match in AEW. Ricky and Big Bill, I'm very grateful. I've said that to Ricky too, both right after the match and since. Very grateful. Ricky and Big Bill, what great World Tag Team Champions, and what a great match for Sting and Darby to win the World Tag Team Champions. Okay, so obviously this is back when Sting was, still in his retirement run and things like that. Because like I said, this was from the AEW Revolution Media Scrum. But I was trying to pull it up here to see if we had any more clarification on when Ricky's contract is set to expire. But he just continues to say pretty much he's definitely a part of AEW, which again is not the question. But again, if I can come across it, I'll throw it in here. But I think it has to be coming up soon, right? So, or at least if not soon, maybe within the next year. And to me, that's kind of soon. But I don't know, guys. It's to me the fact that again the comment that he being Tony Khan that I'd love to get him involved and back in AEW. It's just kind of odd. Like you would think that maybe like they would be communicating, or especially if both sides want to be doing something, that something would fall through, right? Like maybe one wants A and one wants B, they would be able to find a common ground. And again, that's just pure speculation. Maybe from me, maybe thinking that they're just not agreeing on something, and that's why they're just kind of it's just kind of idle right now. Um, because you would think that if someone wants to be on TV and someone wants to be doing something, they would be able to. And on the other hand, the literal owner of the company and the guy who has full power of putting said person on the TV would be doing that. So it's just a very odd situation, and it's very unfortunate. Like I said, it's I hope that whatever it is, they get it fixed and sorted out, and just like, oh, okay, like I didn't realize you wanted me to be on TV. Okay, cool, let's do something. You know what I mean? And again, like obviously things change with Big Bill, but Ricky Starks doesn't need to be in a tag team. I think Ricky Starks is very great on his own, and very capable of being on his own for that matter. But I think this one is a to be continued. So we'll check back on in on this one maybe within the next few months. But with that being said, keeping on the AEW side, we have another contract coming up soon, apparently, speculatively. But of course, it's coming from a great source this time, that being this person's brother. And again, this dude, being Jeff Hardy, right, is one of my all-time favorites. Again, everything, personal life, I don't want to say putting it to the side, right? Because it's very serious things that have happened in the past. But on screen character wise, growing up especially, he was always one of my all time favorites. So I will always have that love and just that love for him. So always have to put that out there. And I want to like if I ever talk about someone that or wrestler who's his I favor and I've idolized or I've grown up liking and loving, like a CM Punk. I try to put that out there, especially if you're not watching. If my kids had don't had memorabilia or shit up. Um, so just trying to be conscious. But that being said, getting back to the more important part here. And again, I'm reading the transcription here from WrestlePurist.com, so shout out to them. They start off by saying the Hardys could soon reunite outside of AEW should Jeff's deal expire. When Jeff Hardy, remember God, I'm fucking up everything. Mike Adamle back in, what was it, 2006, 7, 8, 9, whatever. Um, he called Jeff Harvey. So I guess I'm right there with him. And I think he ended up having some medical issues later on, so I hope he's doing okay. But getting back to it, the belief was that his deal matched up with his brother Matt so that they would expire at the same time. That is no longer the case, with Jeff still under contract with AEW, whilst Matt appeared in TNA on April 20th following the contract or the expiration of his contract. Jeff may be about to join his brother. Okay, whatever. So essentially, Jeff Hardy's contract is about to expire soon. Just a little worded differently than I would have done it, but hey, to each their own. You know what I mean? But just a brief synopsis. Jeff's contract is expiring soon. And this came straight from Matt's mouth, right? Matt has a podcast, Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. So shout out that and check that out if you'd like to listen to it for yourself. He says quote, he's been cleared. He's just sitting at home waiting on the call. Unlike me, he's not someone who really gets out and makes things happen. He just kind of waits on someone to call him. He's sitting at home just waiting on that phone call, jumping on the trampoline up and down with the dumbbells. But yeah, he's got till like mid-June or so, I think, and then his deal's up. So I guess we'll see if he ends up resigning or not resigning. Who knows? And then they go on to say Jeff Hardy's last match in AEW came on the February 6th edition of Rampage in a losing effort to Sammy Guevara that resulted in Hardy suffering a broken nose, with Guevara subsequently being suspended for still hitting his finisher to pick up the win. So that'd be very interesting to see if Jeff does end up a free agent again and where he ends up. So, and if they end up going back to WWE, because I could see that. I could very easily see the Hardys going back to WWE, maybe before the end of this year. So that'd be again another to be continued on that one. But if I had to put money down, I would make it most likely. And especially like they mentioned, since Matt left, and again, not knowing exactly how long Matt is going to be in TNA, but things can change very quickly, and especially with the partnership that they're doing now with TNA, WWE, NXT, and TNA for that matter. So, again, very interesting, and the wrestling landscape is changing so much that it just makes nothing set in stone and nothing for sure thing, which makes it so cool, right? Like that keeps it fun and entertaining for us. But moving over to the WWE side of things, of course, like I said, they have the bulk of the contract expiring issues and the questions and the what ifs going on. So, gonna get right into that. And again, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. The biggest one that we're going to be referring to and starting off with is, of course, Becky Lynch. Mentioned it earlier. It's no surprise. She even mentioned, I think, posted something on Instagram. I forget exactly what the wording was. See if I can get it pulled up here really quick. But it was kind of like a farewell, but just like a not a permanent farewell. So let's see, because I know I definitely followed Bex. Good old Bex. Yeah, so it was a picture of her walking out of the arena from a week ago, actually. As of now. Yeah, I had a crazy fucking weekend, so I'm completely thrown off with time. But yeah, and that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was a picture of her just walking out in between two of the 18 wheelers that they have that carry all the shit. And she just simply posted, or the caption was to be continued. So obviously she's not retiring, right? And I don't think anyone really expected her to or was under that assumption. But I think it'd be very cool for her to take a substantial amount of time off. That being 6 months to a year, I would say why not? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, her and Seth, I'm again not gonna assume anyone's finances, but it's pretty obviously done very well for themselves, right? And then the reports of the big contract extension that Seth just signed, things of that nature. So, and Becky, I'm sure, has saved a little bit of cash, right? So I don't think money is a big issue for them right now, and I think she would most likely be in the position to take a year off if she'd like. We all know that they have a daughter, right? Maybe what 3, 4 years old now, if that old. I'm not 100% certain on the age of the kid, but a kid is a kid, right? And you still want to spend time with your kid. But obviously now with Seth being home, taking care of himself and rehabbing and just again just taking care of his life and his body, I think this is good for them. And this is what I advocated for even before WrestleMania, and this is what I was hopeful for. I don't think we all knew really, and again, if we did and I spoke about it, I don't even remember. But if other people knew and I just didn't, whatever. But I myself, I'll always say, I didn't realize that Becky's contract was up so soon. I do remember that they mentioned that she was going to take time off prior to WrestleMania, but then she ended up facing Rhea Ripley there, or not, maybe not prior to WrestleMania. If not prior, then right after WrestleMania. But she definitely wasn't pegged to win the championship, and then obviously with Rhea getting injured, things changed, and she kind of stepped in there. Um, but regardless, I'm super happy for her. I hope she tests the waters. I hope she checks out AEW and reaches out to Tony Khan and they speak and maybe possibly get an offer there. And I hope she can negotiate and I hope she gets the biggest bag that she can and she comes back when she's ready to. I think it'd be super interesting if she were to test the independent waters, right? I don't see that happening, but I think it'd be very cool if she just remained kind of like a free agent and within, let's say if she does take a year off, if she pops up at a few independent shows randomly, right? I think her and Seth live in Iowa, um, the Illinois, Iowa area. So that'd be really cool if she popped up over there. Seth also again has that the wrestling training school that he runs, so I'm sure she'll probably maybe step in there and just stay in the ring, right? If nothing else, and just kind of stay active. So regardless of what she ends up doing, I'm happy for her and kudos to them for taking time off. I'm very happy again the landscape has changed and that they're able to take time off and they're not pressured to sign another deal or shunned because they didn't or anything like that. So I'm just very happy for that as a whole. Um, do I think she's gonna go to AEW? No, I think it would be such the sight to see, right? Of Rebecca Quinn is all elite. But I don't think she can even still go by Becky. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think she's most likely just gonna take 6 months to a year off, if that long, and just enjoy maybe just until the end of the summer and enjoy just being a mom and just being her own person and not a worker, right? And someone who's constantly on the road and constantly on the hustle. She just finished her book tour, I believe. So she's I'm assuming good schedule wise. So shout out to them, and I hope that they have a good few months. Hopefully, 6 months to a year, and that's again someone from coming from someone who's a huge Becky fan. I met Becky back in 2019 at WrestleMania 35, so that was super dope, and it stands out to me. And I mentioned it periodically because she was such a cool person and so nice. And she made time to speak with people and she didn't just take a quick picture, sign whatever you had, and just like brush you off within 30 seconds. She acknowledged you, right? So I always have that level of respect and love for her, you know what I mean? So shout out to her and again enjoy that time off. But that's just the beginning of the contract kind of I don't even say issues, but expirations that WWE is having. To me, just right now, that's the biggest one. The other one that was mentioned recently is Chad Gable. It's actually reportedly set to expire this week, I believe. Gonna get that pulled back up. But according to FightfulSelect.com, and I'm reading it off of Russell Pierce, so shout out to them. It's believed that Chad Gable's WWE contract is set to expire next week, and this was posted on May 30th, so that would be this week. um, and that there is no current agreement in place to extend the deal. On Wednesday, word within the wrestling industry was that Chad Gable's WWE contract is set to expire late next week, this week, and that no deal has been reached as of now. And of course, they just go on to speculate. He's 38 years old, which I wasn't, makes sense, but it's just he's so young but so established. I'm not even gonna say old, but established. Um, I really with him, I don't see him leaving. I think he's probably just negotiating too, right? And maybe take some time off and sign a new deal. But I don't see him maybe going or testing the independent or jumping to AEW. It'd be interesting if I was wrong, and I'd love to kind of dissect it, but I don't think that he's gonna be one of them. I think he's gonna stay with WWE. It's just a matter of getting things kind of sorted out. The one that we'll hold off on that one. Another one that was recently, actually today, that was dropped was Angel Garza. His contract is set to expire on August 1st. I believe. Da, da, da. Yeah, so it's about less than 2 months. But the Fightful, again, shout out to them, Fightful Select, did specify that negotiations have already taken place between the two sides and that the 31-year-old currently has an offer on the table, but he has yet to accept. He is part of the SmackDown brand where he teams with Berto as part of Legado del Fantasma. So again, I don't really see him leaving either. He's another one that I don't see testing the waters or wanting to go anywhere. I think that he has a pretty decent thing going. I think, yes, obviously, probably wouldn't be, more prominently shown, especially in the tag division or singly. But I think he's good. You know what I mean? I think it's just again a matter of figuring out the numbers, maybe the days, whatever it is, and just working it out, Nothing too crazy there, I don't think, in my opinion. We have also, of course, if you're on Twitter, X, know that Twitter, Ricochet's contract is reportedly set to expire this summer as well. He had signed a 5-year deal, it is believed, back in 2019. So here we are, which is again fucking crazy. It's just reported that it's set to expire this summer. Again, shout out to Fightful Select for that and Wrestling Purists. Or WrestlePurists.com rather. Thank you. Sorry about that. But this one is interesting to me because while I think it would be wildly assumed that he would stay, I think he would maybe be more tempted than the others that we've been talking about to test the waters, test the independent scene, and go from there. I think WWE would definitely want to keep them. I would be shocked if they didn't. He's their inaugural speed champion, right? So that's one thing right there. But and of course, right, he's that guy where you can call in to have a good match, and he's electrifying, right? Like, not to steal The Rock's word, but he's that guy that always gets people's attention and always keeps people locked in. The only downside people have ever said about him is quote unquote promo style, right? And maybe he's not the best on the mic in WWE, but if you've watched him outside of that, it's a little bit different. So he's one of those where I think if things were different, especially in the beginning, that he probably could have been taken a little bit more seriously, just in the sense of booking the past few years. But and of course, obviously, we know Smith Irvin is in WWE, but there's plenty of couples who are in various companies. So to me, that's not really a big factor. I mean, obviously, you're going to want to stay with your partner, right, and as close as possible. But I think a lot of partners too, especially in people in this situation, like they know the grind and they know the work life balance, so they have it figured out. But to me, I think it'd be very interesting, and I think he could, if I had to put like a percentage on it, I would say maybe 60-40 that I could see him maybe entertaining more the possibility of leaving. But I think ultimately he would resign. Now, and like I was saying earlier, if you're on Twitter, you do know Will Ospreay had pretty much mentioned that I don't remember the exact wording, but that it was pretty much a travesty what they were doing and how they were booking Ricochet, and that he should be a bigger deal and how fantastic he is. All fair and all true points, right? But it's just different. WWE is a different beast, so I'm not really surprised in that regard. It is a shame, right? And like, it doesn't make it okay. But I'm not surprised by that. But I just think, again, like, I think Ricochet is another one that has a good thing going. But if I were to take a chance, and depending on the odds, I may put the odds overall, I may put more money on him testing the waters and then coming back within like 2-3 years. But I'm not going to be shocked if he resigns, and I think he ultimately will. Uh, but I think it would be cool to possibly see him in AEW or TNA. Rather, I think he would run shit in TNA. I think he would be just fucking incredible there. And again, with a partnership, like, what harm would it be for him to be released from WWE, right? Like, not renew his deal, go to a TNA, dominate there, and then within their partnership, like, kind of work his way back in. And just in one way, you're enhancing yourself and you're showing what big of a deal you are and what type of star you are. And then you're still kind of working with the same company. So I think that would be a really cool dynamic and twist on it. But ultimately, like, I would, and I'm one of those strange bettors. Like I'd put money on it, like just to take that chance. Not a crazy amount, but a decent amount, right, to get a good return. But I would not be shocked, and it would be an amount I'd be okay with losing. But an amount I would be like okay, like it's not a crazy bet, you know what I mean? With putting down. So that is the Ricochet side of things. And again, no exact time frame, just sometime this summer. So we'll see, and I'm sure we'll get some updates between now and then. But the one that is another one that was pretty intriguing to me. And one second, thank you. Again, it's not Prime, so Logan Paul, you can shout out, reach out if you want Prime on here, but something about that cool frost with the Gatorade, you know what I mean? Oh, the glacier freeze. So it is what it is. But back to the contract, and in the last one that we have here is regarding Natalia. And I think this one, let me see if we have a date for this one specifically. No, I don't see a specific date, but it said it is very close to its expiration date. And again, this is from WrestlePurist.com. And they quoted Dave Meltzer saying, "Yeah, she has to sign a new deal, but I don't know that that's anything to be alarmed over or anything like that. But that is the situation. So, okay, whatever. That okay. Like sometimes I'm just like, what? Okay, like that's whatever. um, but it is. I didn't realize she was 42 years old, which is crazy. But she has been with the company since 2007, which is fucking crazy. And shout out to her. Like it shows her longevity. It shows how great of a talent she is. And she's been one of those who has been responsible for training a lot of the people that we've seen, like a Ronda Rousey and people of that nature, and just really being the backbone of the division, maybe even more so behind the scenes than we know of. So, and of course, we know her husband. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I just blanked on his name. And I know you guys are thinking of it. And it's right there. It's Ty. Oh my gosh. Just because it's going to drive me nuts. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why. Tyson Kidd. Oh my gosh, Tyson Kidd. Duh. But it was going to drive me freaking nuts. I couldn't let that one go. Obviously we know Tyson Kidd is still employed with the company, and I don't believe there's any rumors that he's going anywhere anytime soon. He is a behind the scenes producer as well, or an agent. So, and all reports, he's just like praised back there, right? Like everyone loves him. He's so good at what he does. So I see them being a very good team, and I could definitely see Natalia maybe not wrestling in ring as much and just being devoted more so behind the scenes. But with the Owen Hart tournament coming up, I think it'd be really fucking interesting if she were to say, you know what? I've put in what 17 years at this point, so I think I'm gonna go and kind of see what life is like outside of there. Go in the Owen Hart tournament, win, maybe. I mean, how can you not have her win, right? If she's in it, maybe that would be too obvious. Well, we would tackle that when we got there. Again, it's very short notice. But I when I thought about that, I was like, that'd be fucking crazy, but why not? When your contract expires, there's no 30, 60, 90-day clause, so you'd be good to go. And I think she could be sassy enough just to do that. You know what I mean? She could be one of those that'd be like, yeah, like I'll go and go in the independent run and go to AEW, go to TNA, and just kind of play around for a couple years, maybe a year or two, especially with how fun it is now. And then like you're gonna have a place to come back to with WWE. So why not? Why not take advantage of both? So honestly, if I was her, I'd say fucking do it, girl. Like go do it. And you'll get a nice and respectable offer, especially from AEW and your TNA companies. And I'm sure she could get a very good booking royalty, or not royalty, a very good booking fee from the independent scene as well. I mean, just take a look at what Mike Cardona did, right? So he just really revolutionized that scene as well. So I don't know. I personally, if out of everyone that we talked about here, yes, I mentioned Ricochet, him, but in the Ricochet sense, I would see him being more entertained with the idea of wanting to jump, but ultimately staying. With Natalia, I could see her definitely, like not definitely, I could see her being more probable with taking a year or two, maybe three away from WWE. She'd still be young, what, 45? and that's not crazy old, especially nowadays, guys, right? And coming back, and again, when she came back, she would have to go on another like long term full time run. She can just wrestle a few matches throughout the year, and a few, I mean, like and have more influence behind the scenes. So and then eventually be inducted into the Hall of Fame because we all know she's gonna be. So I would that's what I would want, for her, and that's what I would think would be really cool. I think it'd be really, really fun to see what she could do and what her vision of herself would be, just without any type of restraints or any type of holding back, right? And just really seeing what she would want Natty to be. So I think maybe I that's more of a want for me than what she is what's most likely probable. But I think it'd be really fun, and I think she could just kind of reinvent, maybe not even reinvent herself, but re-energize herself and just reestablish her character and have it taken more seriously and show exactly and remind us how fucking great in ring she is. Like, could you imagine her and Serena Deeb? Like, I think that match would be phenomenal. And just thinking of the AEW women's roster, her and Mercedes Moné, her and Saraya, her and Dr. Britt Baker, you know what I mean? Her and Athena, if Athena can get out of ROH, you know what I mean? Like, I think it'd be really fun to see. So that's what I'm going to put my hat on and remain hopeful for as well. um, but yeah, and I think again, one more thing to wrapping up. I think she's one of those where I would really like to hear her on the mic outside of WWE, and again, hear what her vision and her idea is for her character. So, with that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out the show. We're gonna wrap it up here. I really appreciate you guys for checking out the show and staying with it. And like I mentioned earlier, you can follow the show on Twitter at Kickash Podcast _ me on Twitter at ASHMANNS. You can watch the show on Twitter, or I'm sorry, not on Twitter, on YouTube. But I'm definitely hoping to get another show or two cranked out before this week expires. So we'll see. And I feel like this week we're gonna have a little bit of news coming up. We do have some Vince McMahon news as well, but that was a lot to get into, and I didn't have much time here, so I at least wanted to reference the contracts that are kind of in play right now, and it's kind of just circulating through the news, and at least get that one knocked off the list here. But again, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great night. And Raw is tonight, which should be a fun show. Check it out. As always, just enjoy wrestling and stay safe, guys.